Well, this evening we continue the series that we've been in, Help Wanted, looking at Psalms, particularly of David, although Psalm 121 is not signed. So it could be David's, but we're not positive about that. And we consider, as we look at these Psalms, David's condition, what was going on in his life, or the psalmist in this case, maybe David. But what was going on in the life of the psalmist? What would the original use of the psalm be, or the original meaning of the psalm? And then how does that apply to us? Back in 2018, as a family, we took a vacation and we went up the West Coast. We have family in a couple places in Oregon, and we decided to visit them, but also to see more of the West Coast than just the state of Oregon. So we went all the way to Washington, and then into Vancouver in British Columbia, and then over to Victoria, right? That's the island. Spectacular. It was great. We got to Vancouver, though, and we didn't know what to do, so we did what everybody does. We Googled it. And, what's there to see, what's there to do, what are the highlights, what are the things that people say don't miss, right? And so we're going through the list, and there's a little marketplace down on like this island in the river, and it's pretty cool. So we went there, and we saw that, and we were talking about what to do. So we had like an afternoon, evening time, and we had a full day, and then the day after that, we were going to go on to Victoria. So we had this full day. What are we going to do on our full day? Well, I read about a thing called the grouse grind. Anybody ever hear about the grouse grind? So there's Grouse Mountain, which was named when, a long time ago, 1800 and something, some hunters shot a grouse, and it, I guess, landed on this mountain. So they named it Grouse Mountain. I guess that's better than Dead Bird Mountain. So, and at some point, they discovered, they found in this mountain, there were paths up the mountain, and hikers started following these paths. They were probably, deer or other animals had made these paths up the mountain. And now it's called the Grouse Grind. So it's like an official path to take, an official trail. It's 1.8 miles. That doesn't sound so bad. But in 1.8 miles, you climb 2,800 feet, which is an average incline of 30%. You know, when you're driving on the highway and you see that, like, the downhill trucks use low gear, that's like a 6%, 7% grade is when they're putting those signs for the truckers, right? This is a 30% grade, so no truck in its right mind would try to drive down this hill. It's called Mother Nature's Stairmaster. And you look at the, descriptions of it and how long it's supposed to take. So, we're talking about doing this as a family. This is a couple of years ago, 2018, so Drew was 9 years old. And so his legs are short, right? They're still kind of short, but they're longer than they were then, of course. They say the average time is 1.5 hours. If you're a novice, you should allow 2 hours to climb the grouse grind. There's a record, though. They keep records of it. You can buy some kind of card that you scan at the bottom, carry to the top, and scan again so that you have an official time, how long it took you. The record, about 25 minutes. It took us longer than that. We probably would have made it in 25 minutes if we had taken the cable car thing that goes up to the top, because you can do that too. We carried our food with us. We stopped and ate lunch along the way, and when we're stopped kind of off the trail sitting, and it's like Mother Nature's Stairmaster is what they call it because of the way that the rocks are up this. It's like stairs. It's like climbing stairs most of the way. And so we stopped and went off to kind of the side and sat down on some rocks, and we pulled out the food that we brought with us, and we were eating our lunch, and other people were climbing the trail, and they look over and they go, "Oh, you're smart." Because you get hungry climbing that high for that long. It probably took us a little over 2 hours to make it. But can't life sometimes feel like an uphill climb? Doesn't it feel like sometimes we're just, all you can do to put one foot in front of the other. There's, burdens on us and problems that persist. The last couple years, we've been through a pandemic. You know that. It's been hard. And, depending on your situation, maybe for some people it wasn't as hard as others, but for some it was extremely difficult. And all the related issues with it, right? We know people who've been sick. We know people who have lost family members. And there's tragedies involved and hardship and economic issues that have followed because of the pandemic, and just all of the stuff with what do we do, what do we not do, where do we go, where do we not go? What are the decisions? Who's in charge? What do they say? Does it conflict? Who do you got to follow? Follow the more strict guidelines. Oh my gosh, make my head explode, right? If the pandemic's not enough, then over the last, I don't know how long it's been, but when did inflation suddenly go to, like the grouse grind? It's like there's this prices, right, are going up at some percentage that none of us is comfortable with. At least I don't think anybody is. And that's not enough. So now we've got conflict in Ukraine and, Russia invading and missiles and bombs, and it's the front, top news story every day for the last couple of weeks, and it should be because it's a big deal. But wow, because it's a big deal. And it could get worse, and it could spread, and it could involve other countries, and we could be involved in it as a military, and NATO, and all these conversations that are happening, and all the economic sanctions that are going on. And what does that lead to? High gas prices. And that's inflation, is just like all these. And that's not enough because we also have our own stuff, right? Don't you have your own stuff too? I mean, all that's just the news. What's your problem? Ever get that question? What's your problem? That's like a middle school question, isn't it? Drew's in middle school, so, he tells us about other middle school kids and things that they do and the ways they behave and things that bother him. There's they have brunch at the middle school. They have a break and they can get some food, and so sometimes he goes and gets in the brunch line. Most days he packs his lunch because he ate like 1 or 2 days of lunch at middle school, and he was like, yeah, I don't like the food. Oh, we can make your lunch. So he started packing his lunch, but from the brunch, he gets in the line, and the way the line goes, it goes in, and then around a corner, and there's this door frame, with one of those things, that's down the middle of the door. I don't know what that thing's called, but there's like 2 doors, but that one bar, right? And everybody's on this one side, but then occasionally there are the kids that come around on the other side and somehow go to the front of the line and get in. One of these times, he's going to be one of those kids toward the front when those kids are trying to cut in, and I'm just nervous that one of those big boys is going to look at him and go, what's your problem? But what's your problem? We all have burdens. We have personal struggles. And they're all unique. Each of us has a different set, but there's some commonality in a lot of the things that we struggle with. We might have financial issues. Did you hear this? Those gas prices got so high that Tom Brady had to unretire. I mean, I figured that must be it. At $5 a gallon, he was like, I didn't plan for this. Maybe your struggle, it could be job related, Maybe you have a boss that's aggravating or coworkers that are difficult. Maybe your issue is relational. Conflict between you and a neighbor, you and a family member, yourself and, someone you've known for a long time. Maybe it's a health-related issue. And the burden is you're unsure, you're not positive of how things are going to work out. Or your health is deteriorating and you're not exactly sure what to do about it. Or you're facing decisions. Maybe those are health decisions or financial decisions or future decisions or job decisions. Or the decision. We were at a conference a couple weeks ago, Best Practices for Ministry. And one of the things that was talked about was over the last 2 years, how many people in ministry have faced decision fatigue. And I thought, it's not just ministry. It's all of us. It's decision fatigue. We're worn out from deciding things because we have to change our decisions all the time. And we can be anxious about so much. So much that's happening, so much in our lives, and the anxiety that just piles up. Where can we look for help? In 1960, a book by P.D. Eastman was written, Are You My Mother? It's the kind of book I can read. It's a kid's book. It's published, it's got like the Cat in the Hat picture on it. You know, that one circle logo with the Cat in the Hat, and I think it's Random House that publishes it. Anyway. It's about a baby bird that's born in the nest. And when it's born, it's alone because the mother, realizing that the baby bird was about to come out of the egg, decided to go because the baby bird is going to be hungry, right? So the mother bird flies off. This is like page 1. And then is looking for food. And the bird hatches, or the egg hatches, and the bird comes out. No, Mom. What do I do? Looks down out of the nest and decides, okay, well, I'm going to go find my mother. Goes out of the nest, can't fly, hits the ground. Don't worry, it survived. And starts going from, place to place looking. Are you my mother? Asking every animal that it finds. First, the kitten. Are you my mother? And the kitten just kind of looks and licks its paws, I guess. That's the way kittens do. Asks the hen, are you my mother? And a dog. And a cow. And gets the same response, I'm not your mother, and the little bird keeps going on. Then asks a boat. It's not about a smart little bird. It's a little newborn bird that's looking, and then a plane. Are you my mother? Finally, a steam shovel, doesn't know what to call it, but are you my mother? And steps up onto the tooth of that steam shovel. And the steam shovel just snort. And so now the baby bird calls it, oh, you're a snort. So then the snort lifts up the baby bird. Where do you find your help? Where do you look? We look at all kinds of places, all kinds of sources for help, for strength, for comfort. Sometimes we look inside. You ever do that? I need something, and so I look to me. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to do more. I'm going to stay up later. I'm going to start over. I'm going to change the scenery. I'm going to find a new job. Maybe you've heard this cliche, if it's up, or if it is to be, it's up to me. You heard it? Have you lived it? We've probably all gone down that road because it's just like, well, our culture, right? That's what we do. We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and let's go. Grit our teeth, put the nose to the grindstone. That just sounds really uncomfortable. I used to work in making grinding machines. Don't put your nose on a grindstone that's moving. So we look inside. Maybe we look around ourselves, at family, at friends, at people who are near us, neighbors. We look for help in other people or in institutions. We look to the government, to social systems, to agencies, nonprofits, charities, even maybe the church. Because we need help. We need support. We need somebody. And when we don't find what we're looking for, maybe we look down. Discouraged. Disappointed. Frustrated. Because we didn't get help. We didn't find what we needed until we finally hit rock bottom. You know what they say, when you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. So look up. Which brings us back to our psalm. I lift my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? From where does my help come? This is a song of ascents, is what it says in the probably bold print at the top of the printed version of the psalm, if you were to open up the Bible to Psalm 121. It's one of the songs of ascents, and this is traveling music. Jerusalem is built on a hill, and God willing, I hope to see it this summer, assuming that that trip still happens. That was supposed to happen in 2020. So as people go to the city, they go up, no matter what direction it is. When I tell you about the vacation we took to Oregon and Washington and Vancouver, we went up, right? Because on the map, that's up. It's north. If you go to Jerusalem, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It could be from the north or the south, east, west, doesn't matter. You're going up to the hill where Jerusalem is, Mount Zion. And so on the way to Jerusalem, it's called going up in the gospel reading tonight. Jesus looks at his disciples and says, we're going up to Jerusalem, climbing the hill. And a song of ascent was for the people to sing as they went up Mount Zion, up to the temple, singing along the way. I lift my eyes. I read a story about a pastor who shared that had a person who said, I need help. My life is a wreck. All I have left is God. And the pastor's reply, that's always enough. That's always enough for victory. That's always enough help. He is always enough. In our gospel reading then, following this interaction between Jesus and his disciples, there's the blind man who is the only one in the story who seems to look up. The man who has no sight has vision to see Jesus as the one who can help. My help comes from the Lord. That's what the psalmist writes, and in verses 3 to 8, here's what we read. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. This song sung on the way up to Jerusalem, up to the temple, up to the place where they were expecting to experience God and see him. I look, where does my help come from? I look to the hills, to the one who will keep. A word that we see 6 times here in Psalm 121, keep. He will keep, he will keep. He keeps Israel, he's the keeper. The word in Hebrew is shamar, which means to keep, to observe, to protect, or to save. And this is what we see God doing in this psalm. He perceives. He sees you. The one who keeps you, who watches over you. He can see you. Climbing, struggling, looking in or down or around. He sees you. And he keeps you. So he perceives, and he, verse 3 says, he protects. He will not let your foot be moved. As we climbed the grouse grind, as we walked up those rocks and some places where there were like railroad ties or logs put in so that there were steps to take. Occasionally it was a little bit slippery. Not quite the easiest climb, which they tell you when you read all the details of it. And your foot slipping as you climb something like that could mean a twisted ankle, some broken skin on a knee or a shin, or worse. It can be painful. But the Lord keeps you as you're climbing. He won't let your foot be moved, not just on the path up the mountain, but on the path of life. He protects you. And verse 6 tells us that neither the sun nor the moon will strike you. We're protected. That climb to Jerusalem, out in the open, exposed, the sun beating down, and that dry and weary land. And yet the psalmist promises that he will protect us from sun and moon. Verse 7 tells us that he preserves, that he will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. And he will keep your gardening, your coming out, you're going out, whatever it is. You know what I said. You're going out and you're coming in. That's what it was. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in. Along the path, going up, going back, entering and returning. And he protects, preserves, and keeps. And finally, he persists. Verse 4 tells us he neither slumbers nor sleeps. You ever think about God in that way? He took a day off once. He rested day 7 of creation, right? Establishing the Sabbath, telling us that that's how our rhythm should go, work and rest. And yet God doesn't do that anymore. He doesn't slumber, he doesn't sleep, he doesn't take time off, he doesn't miss out on what we're dealing with because, well, he was taking a nap or a day off or a vacation. He persists. And verse 8 says, now and forevermore. Look up. There is help in the Lord. So in the book, Are You My Mother? The snort lifts the baby bird up, and it ends up back in the nest where it started. And just then, the mother bird comes back with a nice worm in its beak. And she asks this question, do you know who I am? You're my mother. And God asks us that question, do you know who I am? He's the God who made us. He's the God who protects us. He's the God who keeps us through all of what we experience in life. He is our keeper, and we can trust in him. Amen.